What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's General Easy coming at you again once more, as usual. And we do have a couple slides with us here that we're going to try to understand what is unfolding, right? So, yeah. Before we get to them, of course, I want to issue a fair use disclaimer, right, for all the copywritten material that is going to be shared here in this here video, okay, for purposes of criticism, commentary, and of course reporting on world events. Yeah, so this is why this is why they cannot let us have anything, right? Because I believe that they know exactly, right? They have been gatekeeping the things, right? They know exactly what extraordinary things that our ancestors were able to achieve, right? And according to the current narrative, it would, I don't know, cause a glitch in the system if they were to admit that indeed the Egyptian kingdom was a Bantu kingdom, right? And its birthplace is at the opening, right? At where the Nile begins, right? As they have documented themselves, right? That will be somewhere in the regions of East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, right? In modern countries, right? Tanzania here. And of course, our brothers and sisters who are also part of that big kingdom, who are now what we call West Africa, right? You can see in the artifacts, right, that indeed these people were one people and they knew of each other, right? So this is a good thing. Huh? Well, this is the reality, right? This is just the reality, right? Just like how the racist Americans are now finding out, and even some Europeans are going to find out soon, right? You saw fruits in the supermarket, but you didn't really know where they came from and who did the work. All right, I need you to pay attention, okay? So above, great news from China pertaining to quantum computing, right? And below, he is saying that they are targeting tyrants to protect civilians, right? So whatever they attacked, we should regard and consider to be locations where tyrants exist, okay? Xiaomi shook the car manufacturing industry with this vehicle here. Quite impressive. So, just so you know, okay? Just so you know, okay? Okay? Must be rough out there in Nigeria, huh? Shadow Fleet, another tanker, apparently has been boarded by these pirates. So, as if its confrontation with Iran are not enough, Last time we covered this, we were talking about the Israelis dumping bioweapons on Lebanese territory, if my memory serves me right. And they went ahead and killed 31 people, right? This is just a continuing roster. It's not a new roster that we have just begun recently, no. Since the ceasefire, the so-called ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel, after they tried to invade them and failed spectacularly, they haven't stopped killing people. They haven't. You'll be amazed by how many people they have killed in the capital. Why? Well, 1 + 1 = what? You have seen how they operate. So 1 + 1 = what? This picture is diabolical. Valid question, brothers and sisters, a very valid question. What were they doing? Right? These people are expecting us to, I don't know, agree and bend backwards, right? And by just allowing these aircraft with weapons in their bays to just fly around their countries. Is that what we are doing now? Is that what we are sailing now? Is that it? Tell them to leave if you don't want to be struck. Tell them to leave. The whole of them. The CIA, the MI6. Right? Those are targets for later on. Them and their headquarters. These parasites, you know what? These billionaires are nothing, right? These secret service agencies, these are their enablers, for lack of better words. These are their enablers. They enable these people, right? Because Bill Gates cannot operate no drone, no nothing, right? So we start with the enablers, and then their dependency on technology follows after that. Hit their databases, attack digitally, and then physically. But that's another phase. If they had a gun, what would happen? And still, they believe that they are saviors. It's crazy work. Yeah. And below, you just keep the same vibe, Hegseth. Right? Yeah. The hammer. Right? The hammer. These people thought that this was, I don't know, a democracy or something. The Pentagon leak. Is the house on fire? I think it should be, for the sake of all humanity, not just America. You better bomb yourself. Okay? So above is an official from Iran speaking from a school that was bombed by the US and the Israelis, right? As they say, this school had tyrants in it, right? And they shut this school so as they do not shoot down, I don't know, a ambulance, right, with lights on, maybe, you never know. And below, there's some developing stuff, and that developing stuff is that the Iranians are first claiming that they did not attack the refinery, and second of all, they are warning the Europeans. I think Netanyahu did a good job himself, right, when he said he's demanding that the European countries handle anti-Semitism, right, or else this and that and this. So again, he's just saying, in order for them to have their way, they are willing and planning to launch attacks, right? And apparently the Saudis or the UAE or something caught some Mossad agents who were planning attacks inside their countries. That refinery attack, for me, it was unusual. It was unusual. It was unusual. And I'm suspecting that indeed, this might be the case, that the Israelis did that. Right? Why? What happened after that? Right? Statements started coming out. Right? These Gulf countries are now starting to declare war on Iran. That's what they want. They want help. Okay? And they're willing to do anything to get it. Okay? So the Aramco drone attack, the LNG thing, if I'm not mistaken, this is what they're saying. And if reputation and counts for anything, then it's highly probable. Hezbollah has retaliated after the previous strike that I showed you. So it's a back and forth now. It says it's an honor. It's an honor. The air defenses are decimated, so they have won the war. Something had to be done, right? He also says, you know what? If we didn't, then they would, right? Attack. This is what they're saying, right? So again, Starmer is saying one thing and doing another, right? He's actively escalating in Ukraine, talking about we are going to lead boots on ground and all of this. Well, it is what it is. We are going to cross that bridge when we cross it, right? All I have to know is when and how they were handled, right? So UK scrambles jets to Cyprus, okay? Pay attention. Trump and Merz meet, okay? Out of the blue. Okay, they are not discussing, but rather discussing sanctions on Russia or trade agreements or anything like that. They have nothing to discuss. It's all about war. Right, regardless of what they tell you. That's what I'm suspecting. Starmer, right? Now he's criticizing Starmer. Okay? Fresh strikes on Tehran. Okay? This is another escalation, right? Because this is not just the Iranian, but it is affecting the sect of Islam all over the world, right? Khamenei was just not a nobody. He was like a Muslim Pope equivalent. Well, if love walk like this, then most of us should not even be born. This shows that you are losing the plot, right? Guarantees and assurances are used to hide insecurities, right? So when I see this, I know that they have these emotional, psychological walls that they have put up, right? And they demand people who want to get close to them to use force and energy to penetrate these walls, because it would be worth it. It's all about the self, you know. How can you love a person when you don't even love yourself, you know? It's quite a dilemma, isn't it? France to deploy nuclear-armed jets. Macron proposes temporary deployment of nuclear assets, right? The cyber lettering now has begun. UK, France, and Spain draw the line, refuse to back Trump's Iran war, right? This is the duping, right? These idiots have no choice. They're just pretending, right? And in my opinion, the jig is up for those who are smart. They are planning to go in. And by my calculation, they cannot afford a ground invasion. So what is left? Strikes, air strikes. So priority should be disabling their air capabilities. Jets need fuel, jets need ammunition, jet needs pilots. Jet needs landing strips, most importantly, unless they can take off vertically. They are planning to go in, right? They're saying two different contradicting stories. I just shown you here, right? One day they say this, the other they say that. So what does that help the situation now? Hmm? Does it then mean that you'll pull your troops back and you'll have a moral, or what is this? Of course. So, quite interesting. Like they say, this is their only means. Their only means, air, right? They need to pick the targets in real time. So, surveillance. I've seen some, I shall show you. I think I captured some. Right? It starts to do some drones and stuff, right? Those are quite simple, just cluster munitions, even the jets and the drones. And a cluster warhead does wonders. I saw quite an interesting slug, if I'm not mistaken, an anti-drone slug from Russia. And when it fires, it creates this spiral movement as it goes to the target. Now thinking, how effective would this be if it was chaff? Is that what you call it? Chaff? Yeah, chaff, if I'm not mistaken, right? The flares in that pattern, in cruise missiles, no air defense take them down. They need those upgrades. They're too slow, right? And also the warhead, the RPGs, I call them that, shoulder-mounted rockets. That has a decoy projectile and then a real projectile, armed, those need to be deployed. Just put them close, right? In case some idiots want to become adventurous. Okay? And of course, I can't insist enough. These border crossings, think of the Palestinians as well. Okay? So back and forth now. They phrase it as a threat, but it is just a statement and stating the obvious. Right? People think that modern warfare is going to be like anything we have seen. No. Okay, brothers and sisters, I have seen the world's capabilities from small arms to big ammunition. Okay? And it's not ideal. It's not ideal to go to war in this particular time. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say to that. But if people wanna get, I don't know, adventurous and wanna I don't know, rediscover their colonial roots, stuff like that, they need a proper working. Okay, I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, because the reality is they are also armed, right? Claws and all. So if they don't want peace, then they want problems. So give them problems. Again, saying one thing and doing the other, right? Now you're telling me that these people are more effective than politicians. Then this is, like I said, complicity, right? They look away, Yeah, there are a lot of them, and satellites too, right? Deny your air, right? This easy access to real-time intelligence, mainly two sources, right? Do not believe that they have this magic superiority on intelligence gathering. Okay, technology is not that impressive, right? So what I'm saying is this: it is boots on the ground. Boots on the ground. That's how they get their information, and of course, secondary being these aerial assets. Okay. Well, this Austin shooter, property of Allah. Okay, he's property of Allah. They wanted you to know this. Maybe that's why. He's just a Muslim terrorist. You people outside of have some quite interesting things happening in your countries. You have to look at the bigger picture, look at the whole picture, in fact. Feb 28th, they just did that. Not because he was a threat, because they are weak. They are weak. Hence, they felt threatened, just like a cop shooting at a guy, and crying out, I thought I saw a gun. Rather say that than I was afraid. It's not a claim, it's a fact. Kenyan youth have taken up hooliganism as part of their hustle. It seems that they are willing to stoop low, really low, for their bag, and that's unfortunate. But I don't expect nothing else from a capitalistic mentality as a national model. I expect nothing else. Somebody done sleep talk us some information. Let's just say a lot is happening. And those who are against this war, my suggestion is you do anything that you can to put a dent in their effort. Okay? That's all I can say to that. I don't know what they were expecting, but hey. Now Anthropic is implicated. Maybe that's why they were hustling and tussling the other day. Right? Because now apparently so more information is coming out. Yeah, that is the last slide. So let's listen to what Obama had to say.
Are aliens real? They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens? Are aliens real?
People think it's a joke. They do. They think it's a joke. But what did the former president of the United States just say? Okay?
They're real.
And still people believe that there isn't a conspiracy coming our way. Like, people are seeing all the red flags and they're ignoring. Right? Is he a liar? Is he an idiot? Is he a manipulator? That's what you need to decide. Right? He cannot just slip in this nonsense and then you are not paying attention. Right? He says they are real, but he hasn't seen them. Yeah.
This is the most important educational facility. This is an army academy in which army officers are sent to study the Torah and Talmud. You have rabbis teaching these lectures, and I'm just going to give you some quotes directly from the Hebrews. You can evaluate what kind of messages are being put forth and passed on. So here's Rabbi Eliezer Kashtiel, and this is what he has to say to his students. Due to the abolition of legal slavery, there are now deficiencies since no one is responsible for the property. Humans' property. With the help of God, it will return. Slavery will return. So who are going to be these slaves? The non-Jews will want to be our slaves, he says. Being the slave of a Jew is the best. They must be slaves. They want to be slaves. Instead of wandering the streets, being foolish and violent, harming one another.
Okay, first and foremost, let's not lie to ourselves. Being so-called quote-unquote Jew, at this particular point, I think it is obvious to everybody. It means being European. That is who they accept to their club. Ask the so-called Ethiopian Jews and what happened to them. Oh, how about the Syrian Jews? How about the Palestinian Jews? Do you know what happened to them?
Now his life begins. All around us, there are nations with genetic problems. Any simple Arab where he wants to be. He wants to be under the occupation. Why? Because they have a genetic problem.
Wow.
They don't know how to run a country. They don't know how to do anything. Look at the state of them.
These are the same things that they were telling Africans during our struggle for independence, right? That they had to put us under protectorates, right? So as they can, I don't know, baby walk our civilizations, right, into the prosperous future.
Sounds kind of racist. Yeah, he goes on. He says, yeah, of course racism exists. Are we unaware that there are different races in the world? Is it a secret? Is it untrue? What can you do? It's true. Yes, we're racist. We believe in racism. Correct. There are races in the world, and nations have genetic attributes. So it requires of us to consider how to help them. Racial differences are real. This is precisely a reason to offer help. Wow. That's really something. This is the premier military academy. Surely this can't be the bulk of what they're teaching, right? So we move on. Here's another rabbi, Guillaume Redler, and what he teaches about the Holocaust. He says the Holocaust wasn't really about killing the Jews. That's not the Holocaust. All those excuses that it was ideological or...
Pay attention. This is the most diabolical part of this whole ordeal. And this should alarm all of those people who are quote-unquote aligning themselves.
Systematic, that's nonsense. Because it was out of ideology, in a way, it was more moral than if it was just people just murdering. Humanism, the whole secular culture of believing in man, that is the Holocaust, he said. The real Holocaust is to be pluralistic, to believe in man. That is called Holocaust. For many years already, God has been screaming that the diaspora is over, and people don't listen to him, and that is their disease, which must be cured by the Holocaust.
Hence, the so-called rise in anti-Semitism. Okay, because this sect needs to keep this illusion going. And how are they going to do that? By force. Fascism. Farce. Right? The fash. Right? A bundle of sticks tied together with rope. Through strength. Peace through strength. The same undertone, the same language. Okay? So that's why we are hearing he's now talking about reopening the airspace, right? Okay, so the unhinged portion, they're thinking like this. That means all of those people who have escaped the troubles, you know, just look at what Zelensky is doing, right? He is also a Jew. Look at what he is doing. He's gonna do it. When he get desperate, he's gonna talk to the Europeans and force them to send them back by force. Apparently, they know the statistics. They say about 2 million men fighting age, right? 2 million men of fighting age have fled Ukraine. And of course, at one point, they were talking about bringing them back, forming a mechanism, right, through the EU. I've not forgotten about it. I keep track of things. So this is a real reality, right? So they're gonna do this to their own people so as to force them to go back to the land, right, which they are not supposed to be. You can me and you, we are here, right? And all I'm just saying is just a summary of all the things that I've shown here throughout the times, right?
Jewish people living anywhere in the world other than the state of Israel, that's a disease. And the cure for this disease is to genocide said Jews. You know, about as revisionist as you're going to get.
They're not listening to God's will, right? The diaspora is over. That's how the Bible is tearing the narrative about them going back to the land, right? Where is that portion of the book that says they will dwell in peace? Where is that? You Christian evangelicals, we can read the Bible these days, you know, and for a long time you have actually perpetrated a lie. Why? Because one, people are too arrogant to admit that they haven't really read the Bible. Right? They're too arrogant to admit that they have actually read the Bible. Everybody wants to say, okay, I am read, right, pertaining to the Bible and whatever its content is. In most cases, when a person says that, I suspect him of lying, right? There's a reason that these, what do they call them? Critiques are calling the Bible the greatest story ever told. There's a reason for that. Right? It's just short from saying this story cannot be contrived by the minds of men. It cannot. Right? Don't get me wrong, there are perversions in it, but the basic, the skeleton of the story is still intact, very much alive. Right? If you take into consideration that the so-called Jewish of this age, of this particular moment in time, they're actually not even converts, right? They have a whole other system which basically combines mysticism and Babylonian garbage, right? Basically Satanism. Okay? So if you work under the assumption that, oh, these are our brethren in the so-called Judeo-Christian whatever, right? Why is there even a difference between Judah and Christ? They are the same thing. Why is it? Because it's a deception in plain sight, casting spells.
Yeah, that's pretty sickening stuff. And then he goes on. In relative terms, the logic of the Germans was internally consistent. Hitler said that a group of people, a certain group in the population, is the source of
I recently saw footage of these supposed camps. They had pools, like swimming pools, like huge swimming pools. You know, they were well taken care of. But what they say outside is quite contrary. And I'm having issues with that.
evil for all humanity. They cause evil to humanity, and therefore they must be exterminated. So let's start with the question. He says, was Hitler right or not? Seems like a pretty obvious answer, right? But you're be surprised. He says he is the most righteous person possible. Of course he was right in every word he said, talking about Adolf Hitler. What does he mean by this? There is the masculine world that wages war.
There they go. Right? This is that new age garbage, right? The masculine is the sun. The feminine is the moon. Mysticism, right? Worshipping of objects, and we all have some level of masculinity and femininity. If you don't know, we all have, right, that attribute. Okay, I remember back in the days was back in secondary in biology class, and I was asking, this biology teacher was a woman, and I asked her, well, madam, what would happen if men did not have estrogen? Is that the opposite of testosterone? My memory, right? But I think it's estrogen. What would happen? And she said basically the features that maketh a man would be, I don't know, for lack of better terms, exaggerated, right? Would be exaggerated, right? And that stuck with me. Of course, we went into detail about what testosterone actually does. You know, you can see it in nature, right? You just need to meet an elephant in heat to understand what testosterone does. Right? They become a menace. So these evil geniuses, through nutrition, of course, right? These hormones are not, right? The body needs resources to manufacture these hormones and to maintain the levels of these hormones within respective female and male bodies, right? If for a female has too much testosterone, then she would not get pregnant, right? And of course, other features might even come out, maybe a mustache, maybe a deep voice, you know, maybe some muscle concentrations in places where there shouldn't be muscle concentration in women. All I'm saying is that they have shown, and I've shown you here over and over, right? There are many ways that one can manipulate the DNA of a subject, right? Internally and externally, right? If I feed you genetically modified material, what is going to break down is that exactly genetic material bonding with your genetic material. Hence, now we have all cases of weird allergies and this and that. It's a whole conspiracy. That's one way. The other way is, of course, the jabs, right, which they directly inject the things into the bloodstream, right? So through your stomach, through your blood, okay? You have to understand that, right? Your nose, anything that goes through your nose ends up in your blood, right? It's the same thing. Anything that ends up in your stomach ends up in your blood. So they're obsessed, right? As you can see, right? They're all about, what do they call it? Eugenics, right? Eugenics, right? Like these people are tickling themselves and laughing at the same time and saying, wow, we are smart.
Concerned with respect. And then there is the soft, moral, feminine world of turning the other cheek. And it's the Jews that carry on that tradition, trying to ruin all of humanity, and therefore they are the real enemy. He's on the wrong side, but otherwise he is 100% correct. He's saying that the correct...
This is exactly what Obama talked about, right? They are real, but I haven't seen them, right? He's on the wrong side, but he's 100% correct. So are you trying to confuse me? Are you trying to get me to I don't know, slap the shit out of you for confusing me or something? Right? Why can't you give a straight answer?
way to be strong, to believe that might makes right. And if you, in fact, believe in being merciful to the other, then that is the most evil thing that humanity can do. Okay, so Hitler was incorrect in his.
Yeah, we have seen this even last year. We had lengthy conversations about empathy, right? Some individual felt obliged to say that empathy is the death of the Western civilizations, right? Saying that the charity that we do in Africa, us inviting migrants to our countries, that has cost us so much. We are so nice. We need to stop being nice. What did that give birth to? Ice. Ice, ice, baby. So, chain of thought, the same. Okay? They don't go into the detail, right? That they don't say that these migrants are the ones working in your farms, right? They don't say that this so-called charity cannot even come close to what they are taking out of Africa through theft. Ask Macron and his uranium. Ask him.
Describing that feminine, merciful quality to Jews, that attitude to believe that might makes right and that mercy is evil, that's 100% correct, according to Rabbi Yored at Israel's top military academy.
Yeah, so for those who agree with this whole mindset, hey, you're on the same boat, right? You're on the same boat with them. Right? They believe the same things you believe. Okay?
Okay, David, surely, these are just, two exceptions to the rule. There must be more. Unfortunately, these aren't the exceptions. These are the rules. So we'll hear from another rabbi at that academy, Yosef Kellner, and he has a lecture on another topic. He says, to not follow the Torah and commandments is lack of morality and national treason. So if you're a Jewish person...
Let me ask people again. People have this tendency, right? Again, this arrogance. What is Israel? Israel is the name of a person. Okay? It's the name of a person. Okay? If you wanna even start having these conversations, you have to go back to where it came from the book. Now, track the genealogy, the descendants of that person who was called Israel. Then you'll know the truth, and it would be undeniable that it is the Bantus. Then who are these fraudulent people who are clearly masquerading as the Israelites of the Bible, while people are failing to understand and see clearly that these are two separate things?
And you don't follow all the minutiae of rules and regulations written in the Talmud, then you are a traitor to the Jewish people. In fact, it's called genociding a people, he says. That's genocide, to be a secular Jew. You are not a national criminal, you are an international criminal. It's called crime against humanity. So now, can a nation protect itself from the traitors within? According to most, traitors are sentenced to a bullet in the head, everywhere. For those who betray them, every sanction is legitimate, up to a bullet in the head. So, slavery, thumbs up, we need to bring it back. The Holocaust, Hitler was 100% correct, the most moral person possible. And if you're a secular Jew, you are sentenced to death. You deserve to die. If I'm summarizing the ideology of the top military academy in the state of Israel. Again, you're going to say, oh, this is some outlier. Surely this academy isn't important. Surely these people are condemned. Come on. This is the headmaster of the academy, Eli Sadan. And here he is a couple of years ago receiving the Israel Prize, the highest prize in the country, receiving it from the education minister. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is there congratulating him. But the headmaster did not allow Bennett, the education minister, he did not allow Netanyahu, the prime minister, to speak to the students. The only politician he allowed to speak to the students was his his favorite politician, previously the chief rabbi of the Israeli army. Now, Netanyahu just made him the most recent education minister. What does he do now that he's our education minister? He gives a prize to who? Who does he give a prize to? This man, Yitzhak Ginsburg. Now, if you're going to remember one name, maybe just this one, because this is probably the most racist rabbi in the country. He published a book
with their fake names and their fake language. These people are quite something, brothers and sisters. They are quite something.
Called The King's Torah, Torah Tamelech. And this book, it's like a theological treatise. It asks the question, under what circumstance may a Jew kill a non-Jew? He comes to the conclusion that pretty much under any circumstance, he writes there is justification for killing babies if it is clear that they will grow up to harm us. This is the man.
Talk about pre-crime.
And who receives a prize from Israel's education minister. Essentially, publishing a Gentile murdering manual. Oh, so what? They didn't report this in the Basler Zeitung? Is this not ridiculous that I have to fly all the way over here and burn up all these fossil fuels to explain this to you, this basic stuff?
What about the 6 million Jews? Well, one of the easiest questions to take care of, actually, is the 6 million Jews. These Jews, if this were true, the 6 million Jew story, you would have to give the Jews credit for being more clever than the cat for having 9 lives, because there's the Jewish gas Jews show up again and again and again all over the world, not just here. The Jewish Encyclopedia, which you can consult, and as you can see in all my literature, lists in 1932 and 33 only 2.5 million Jews for the entire area. Everywhere that Hitler possibly could have been. There were only 2.5 million Jews, and yet he's accused of gassing 6 million Jews in a 2.5 million Jew area. I would be very grateful if the Jews would explain this to me. They've never done it. I think the 6 million Jew stuff is the biggest of all the big lies that has ever been told. And while we're at that subject, let me point out that in Mein Kampf, we hear forever about Hitler's big lie. If you will read and study in Mein Kampf, you look at the actual book, rather than just listen to Jews like William L. Shirer telling about it, you will discover that Hitler says in Mein Kampf that the Jews are the great masters of the lie, and he says that their biggest technique is what he calls the big lie technique, and he says it's vile. He not only didn't invent it, he doesn't advocate it, he says it is a filthy technique by which the Jews tell an enormous lie, and it's so big that nobody ever suspects it. That's exactly what's going on in our country today.
I don't know how long this was.
I'm told, passed some law which said the so-called Banyamulenge are not Zaire citizens anymore. This was a change. That first, at independence, they were regarded as, citizens. And then later, a new law was passed which denationalized them. The Banyamulenge are not immigrants to Zaire. They're not. The kingdom of Rwanda was partitioned between the Germans and the Belgians. And the Belgians took a part of the kingdom of Rwanda, the traditional kingdom of Rwanda, with the people. So when we say respect that border, which was agreed between the Germans and the Belgians.
Right there. What is Zaire? What is Rwanda? Who are the Belgians? Who are the Germans? To tell us and dictate to us about our life unless we let them. We did. That's unfortunate, right? And I know at this particular moment, Nyerere, he knew that this whole conference was stupid and depressing, Why? Because he came in with a proper solution, a logical solution, that we dissolve these borders, because the alternative is what? Redraw them to what time, what period, what state? The borders were always changing during kingdom conquest and all of this. Like, this is that beast within people, right? That animal within people, right? That bear that feels like it should, scratch a couple trees, or a lion that needs to, like, I don't know, pee on a couple trees so as to dictate or to declare that this is my territory. It's like a freaking ant claiming a whole table. Is that beneficial to the ant? No, it is not. Why? Because there's the rest of the table. Okay, there's the rest of the table. And there are things outside there that might be of benefit to him. Why doesn't he take ownership of that? Short-sightedness, right? Do we then pass it off as that? Perhaps. But this whole, I'm aggravated as he is. Let's just say that. Okay, who is this entity called Zaire? Who is it? I want to talk to him. Who is this Rwanda kingdom? There's some crazy work here, brother. It's not even East Africa alone. Even in West Africa, it's the same nonsense.
We must also be saying respect the people whom you receive under that petition. You can't turn around and say, we no longer want you. You are no longer citizens of our country. What are you going to do? Are you going to...
And for those who are lost in the source, they're talking about the Rwanda-Congo conflict. Okay? So it started a long time ago.
To return them alone, or you return them with the piece of land? You can't say go home. Home where? We couldn't in Tanzania get fed up with the Maasai and say the Maasai go home to Kenya. Kenya is not their home.
Fine example.
The Maasai of Tanzania. And my friend Moi can't, for some reason or other, get fed up with the Maasai of Kenya and say go back to Tanzania. It's not back to Tanzania. They've never been in Tanzania. They've always been there. Their country was partitioned between the British and the Germans. And part of them went to Dosho East Africa, and part of them went to British East Africa. They are Kenyans. They're not Tanzanians.
Again.
This is the story of a funeral that's been going on for more than 100 years. Somewhere in Germany are the missing heads of several Tanzanian heroes.
First of all, let's begin there. If it's not science, then can we safely say witchcraft? Now let's go to the reasons, or how they acquired, because the reasons have not been established yet. Okay? We have not established why they took our ancestors' heads. Okay? Some say it's for science. And what benefit has those research yielded? It might be compromising stuff for our own sake. Maybe we should be asking questions, huh?
1907.
Let's not just keep information, okay? Just receive information. They took the heads. Why? Why? Right? Why?
German colonial forces crushed a rebellion known as the Maji Maji War. One of the leaders, Dunas Hungiambano, was hanged along with 67 others just before that. The Germans didn't stop there. They cut off his head and shipped it to Berlin.
He was quite a strategist, right? Quite a military strategist, right? And they were losing the war, right? Before they got reinforcements from the rest of Europe.
Back then, European scientists collected African skulls for racist scientific research.
Es gibt auch noch andere Persönlichkeiten, aber Felix von Buschan ist die herausragende. Dann hat er auch eine Privatsammlung, das sind auch, soweit ich das weiß, nochmal ca. 3.500 Schädel.
3,500 known. Okay, known.
Das heißt, wir sprechen von einer Person.
Okay, I just needed to show you some things so as you can apprehend.
Etwa 10.000 Schädel.
Tens of thousands of remains were stored in museum basements, displayed like artifacts, not people.
How? Au kwa sababu wao walikuwa na nguvu ya kivita, majeshi, bunduki, mizinga, hatukuwa na uwezo, au kwa sababu sisi tuna ngozi nyeusi ndo wakaamua wakatuona sisi kama sio binadamu?
Today, Mbano's family is still searching for his skull. They call it the funeral that never ends. Because how do you mourn someone whose body was divided by continents? Researchers have found letters confirming that human remains from the Maji Maji War were sent to Germany.
So it was meticulous. Okay, meticulous head collecting operation for racist scientific reasons. Are you buying that? Brothers and sisters, are you buying what they're selling?
Hayakuwepo Ujerumani tu, kwamba yalipofika Ujerumani pengine alipofanyiwa tafiti, ilisafirishwa kwenda bara jingine au kwenda nchi nyingine. Tumesikia kwamba kuna kamati zinaandaa urejeshwaji huu, lakini familia haijafuatwa kujua kwa namna gani tunaweza kurejesha. Kwa hiyo kama vile tumeachwa pembeni.
For Mbano's descendants, bringing him home isn't just about history, it's about reclaiming humanity stolen by the colonialists.
So now, once we send it back, something is going to happen again to the community.
Ich will Ihnen sagen, es beschämt mich. Und als deutscher Bundespräsident möchte ich um Verzeihung bitten für das, was Deutsche hier ihren Vorfahren angetan haben.
Because until those remains come home, colonialism isn't just the past. It's still buried in someone else's museum basement.
Nice piece, Al Jazeera. Anyway, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there. Be going on. It's an hour now, so I'm gonna end it. And of course, we're gonna update each other as usual, right? As things are continuing to unfold. General Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.